Thank you for joining me for this presentation on choosing the right review for your research project, a guide to understanding review types for evidence synthesis. I'm Julia Maxwell. I'm a social sciences librarian at Rutgers University, and I co-created this presentation with Jayati Bist, who is a graduate student at Rutgers. We'd like to thank Cornell University Libraries for creating really excellent review support tools that they've posted online, including a review methodology decision tree that we based this presentation on. We've linked that decision tree here on this first slide. Now, you've probably come to this presentation because you're not sure which type of review fits your research project. You've probably heard the words like systematic review or scoping review thrown around in your discipline and are trying to figure out which one of these review types works best for your project. Now, there are a lot of different types of reviews out there, and they span a spectrum, starting with the traditional literature review that's not very specific, doesn't have a substantially reproducible method, and is usually used to justify empirical research, as you probably see when you read a journal article and see the literature review section. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have things like scoping reviews, systematic reviews, and meta-analyses, which are more narrow research questions that follow a very specific and reproducible method defined by the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews, or PRISMA. Now, the first question you really want to ask yourself when considering what type of review you want to do you actually need to gather all the evidence on a particular research topic? Or put another way, do you have to know about the results of every single study that's been done on your research question? Or is it fine for you to just cite seminal pieces and pieces that are particularly relevant to your work? If your answer is no, and you do not need to find every single study that's ever been done on your research question, then a regular narrative literature review will work well for you. Let's say that you say yes to the previous question and you decide that you really do need to find every single study. You need to find them methodologically, concretely, and reproducibly. You then need to think about what amount of people you have on a team to work on that project. We recommend that you have 3 or more people to work on a review project that needs specific reproducibility. If you don't have 3 people, consider recruiting more teammates or revising your plan. These more intensive and reproducible reviews require a lot of teamwork, and they require more than one person in order to limit bias. Next, you might want to ask yourself about your timeline. Most systematic and scoping reviews take between 12 and 18 months to complete. If that timeline doesn't really fit your plan, consider a rapid review, which is using the same method as systematic and scoping reviews in a tighter timeline. One thing to be aware of is that this rapid review method does sacrifice some of the inherent quality and bias checks that are built into the method for systematic and scoping reviews. So you want to be aware of the costs and balances when you decide to embark on a rapid review in a shortened timeline. Next, you want to start to think about your research question. Your research question might be a little bit broader. If your review question is something like, what literature exists on this topic? Or what effects have been demonstrated on a particular intervention? Those are really good questions for a scoping review, where you might not necessarily have a really, really niche outcome in mind or specific population. Your question is a little bit broader. You might want to look at gaps. You might want to look at what's out there in the first place. Those are all really solid reasons to do a scoping review. You might want to review other published systematic or scoping reviews. Let's say that there are a bunch of systematic or scoping reviews out there on your topic, and you really want to know what all of them found. We call this an umbrella review, and that might be the correct method if you're interested in summarizing the results of different systematic or scoping reviews. And finally, do you have a very specific question? If so, then you might not turn to a scoping review and instead look at a systematic review. This is the gold standard for answering really specific, well-structured questions in a reproducible way, and that really entails really honing in on that research question to make sure that you are locating only studies on that particular question and then synthesizing them. Finally, are you going to use statistical methods to objectively evaluate, synthesize, and summarize the study results that you located during a systematic review? If yes, then you might want to add a meta-analysis to your systematic review. It's important to note that you cannot do a meta-analysis unless you first do a systematic review, because meta-analytical methods are a particular component of a way of evaluating the particular studies that you found and the results that you found of those studies during the systematic review process. So it's important to note that a meta-analysis is an add-on to a systematic review rather than a standalone type of review. Now we've gone through all the different types of reviews and the different elements that might make up your choice of what type of review is right for your project. To recap, your review type depends on 4 things: time, team, topic, and type. So time constraints: do you have enough time to complete a really methodologically rigorous review that follows the standards of reproducibility that are accepted in within scholarly evidence synthesis work? Do you have enough people to be able to complete this in a way that both creates an equitable workload and allows for the mitigation of bias? How specific is your research question so that you can choose the type of review that's right for your specificity? And finally, do you know how much evidence you want to gather? If so, that will help you dictate what type of review is right for you. So this was just a taste of these different types of review methods. If you're interested in learning more about any one of their types, please check out either our YouTube channel or check out our LibGuide. Both of them have many, many more resources and materials to guide you through the process of creating a systematic or scoping review or evidence synthesis project in your discipline.